In this video, we'll continue developing our main menu by adding our background and button animation. For this, we'll be using the Sprite-based menu we set up in the previous video, and if you'd like to download and use the sprites we've created, you can find them in the link in the description of the first main menu creation video. Additionally, if you'd like to look at or use the animations we'll create in this video, you can find a link to all the Unity Animator files in the description below.
This video is brought to you by the Astor Galaxy Game Room project and course, a tutorial series filled with hours of content and professionally developed 3D models, textures, and 2D sprites. In this course, we will not only take you step by step through things such as creating game systems and mechanics, but also how to use and master lighting and rendering in Unity's various render pipelines. To instantly gain access to hours of high-quality tutorials, professional-level game assets, and much more, click the link in the description and begin your journey to creating the next great game today.
Let's begin by first opening up our animation window. To do this, we'll go to our Windows drop-down, and under our Animation tab, we'll find and click Animation. Let's next select our Menu Logo Game object within our Main Menu Canvas Game object. With our Menu Logo Game object selected, we want to create and save an animation for this game object. To do this, with our game object selected, we want to hit the Create button within our animator. We'll name our animation Astor Galaxy Main Menu Logo Animation, and we'll save it in the Animation subfolder of our Astor Galaxy folder. With an animation now created and saved, we now have an Add Property button within our animator window. We also have an animator component with a controller on our Menu Logo Game object. Let's begin by changing our samples from 60 frames a second to 30 frames a second. This will allow our keyframes to occupy a much smaller space within our graph. Before we begin, let's talk about what we want to happen within this animation. When our game begins, we want both our buttons and our game title to not be visible to the player. Then after a brief moment, we want our logo to appear onto the screen. After the logo appears, we then want our buttons to appear on the screen as well. With that said, let's begin our animations by reducing our button scale to 0. So we'll first click our Add Property button. And within the properties, we can see that we not only have the property for our Menu Logo Parent Game object, we also have the property of the children game objects, such as our Astro logo and the Galaxy logo as well. We want to go to Direct Transform of our Astro logo, and we want to add our scale to our animation window. And for our scale, we want to take that from 1 to 0. If we now scroll through our graph, we can see the animation for our Astro logo game object. Additionally, we can hit our play button, which will play how our animation will appear to the player. Let's select both our beginning and end frames, and we're going to drag that so our beginning frames start at 5 seconds, and our end frames end at 1.5 seconds. Let's go to our 5-second mark, and instead of adding our properties, let's hit our record button. By hitting the record button, the actions done to the game objects that can be accessed within this animator are then saved within our properties. So let's select our Galaxy logo game object, and let's change our scale from 1 to 0. We can see once we do this, our Galaxy logo scale property is automatically added to our animation. Since we want our Galaxy logo to appear after our Astro logo, let's drag the keyframe that we put at 5 seconds to the position of our last keyframe for our Astro logo scale. And let's move our current frame location from 35 to 65. And we'll change our scale back to 1. And let's be sure that the first frame for our Galaxy logo starts at 0, not 1. And let's turn off record mode and hit the play button to preview our animation. To make our animation feel more dynamic, let's add a slight bounce to the ending position of our Astro and our Galaxy logos. To do this, we can simply make our logo game object scale slightly larger before ending their animation. With that complete, let's move on to creating an animation for our menu buttons. We'll do this in the same way we created our animation for our menu logo. So let's select our menu button game object and create and save an animation, which we'll call Astor Galaxy Main Menu Button Animation. The animation for our buttons will be similar if not the same, which means our scale for our buttons will start at 0, then as our animation plays, scale to their original size. Something to note, we can easily increase or decrease the speed of our animation by increasing or decreasing the samples. The lower the samples, the slower the animation will go, and the higher the samples, the faster the animation will go. With both the animation for our logo and our buttons complete, let's now create the animation for our main menu background elements. We want the animation for our background elements to be able to loop, and we want the loop to be seamless to the player. With that said, we want to animate elements of our background that won't heavily modify the look of our background, yet won't appear odd or out of place to the player. So we mainly want to focus on animating our comets or asteroids and our stars. So before we create any animation, let's position our asteroid animated elements outside of our scene. This way, we can easily loop our animation without the player noticing their ending and starting positions. To give our menu a bit more movement, let's also add and animate one of our ship sprites within our main menu. With that complete, let's create our basic menu functionality, but we'll first need to go into our animation folders and uncheck loop time for all the animations except for our background and ship animation. This way, our animations will only play once and then stop, opposed to looping over and over again.
To instantly gain access to hours of high-quality tutorials, professional-level game assets, and much more, click the link in the description and begin your journey to creating the next great game today.